Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. If you are new around here, every single day at 1 p.m. UK time, we release an update just like this one to help you stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space and the broader markets, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. It's going to be a busy week for the markets. You've got lots of economic data coming out. You've also got a lot of earnings in the United States, which is going to affect the stock market, and we had quite a negative time for the likes of the S&P. Particularly, that was based on a mixed bag, but I would say an overall negative bag of earnings. We've got, I think McDonald's already have had their earnings today. I think they're 13% or something up and beat expectations largely. So we'll see what that brings. But we are still in this period of a very strong dollar that's really been raging since July. Bitcoin has really gone, it struggled with that 30K resistance. The stock markets came down since then. Of course, bonds and real estate getting hit very hard. We need to see that reversion, and we need to actually see the dollar roll. And that's where we're going to start this video off. Before we dive into Bitcoin, what it's currently doing, we were looking at it essentially following gold, and gold sort of leading the way. There is a link between, I believe, Bitcoin and gold. They are both alternative systems of money, if you will. Very interesting, the book that we're writing that I just can't wait to get out, where we're going to look at 10 cryptocurrencies that we believe are going to change the world. We really start with, the kind of history of money and how we've ended up with fiat systems. And it's very interesting to see what we've used previously and look at, gold, its role, and how we ended up off the standard onto the fiat systems that we have today. So let's start things off with the dollar. We have looked at risk. You'll notice Bitcoin straight off the bat. We'll get all of these up at once. You can see everything. Essentially, if you look at from July this year, things started to kind of top out and the rally started to lose quite a bit of strength. And since then, the dollar has obviously raged with an inverse correlation. And then we did speculate at the start of October, based on the weekly candle close that we had, there was going to be a reversion in risk. So you were going to have a risk on period, providing that the dollar rolled, and the dollar's been quite indecisive, and it's showing a lot more strength than I think we would have hoped for. But crypto, you can see you had this initial turning up of risk generally, even the bond market and the property market. But certainly the winners, the real winners here, or beneficiaries, have been the likes of Bitcoin, which obviously has the ETF things going on, and gold, which is on the precipice of breaking out into price discovery and new all-time highs. We actually think gold is going towards $3,000. We think the S&P is still going to new highs until we get invalidated on our thesis. And we're really waiting for the dollar to roll over. But crypto during the meantime is having, quite a good day. Remember, we do have, quickly switching to the broader timeframes, this is a pattern that we've identified, and we've said this is going to take you, that is not the correct target for this, significantly higher than where we were. And it was at the point of the 25K neckline break that we were looking at a significantly higher move to the upside. So we are looking to be coming into the 40K region. We do think you are going to get there. You've gone through very thin volume, which we've previously discussed. And of course, Bitcoin is largely dragging the altcoins. If we look at others, we are going to end up with an alt season at hand. And you have a smaller head and shoulders target that's essentially going to fulfill a broader head and shoulders. And you do this, it's kind of like what you used to draw on the whiteboard. You find that in markets all the time, to both the up and the downside. And this is a reverting market in our opinion. And, across the board, we've got a very positive outlook. But this can change. It's largely going to be determined by the economic situation, which we think is actually not going to come to a head, i.e. the demand destructive event, a crash, until potentially 2025. And we've looked at this from looking historically at interest rates, the lags that they have. And this is what's really enabled us to have a bullish outlook on the markets, despite the headlines during 2023. And actually, we are going to continue to maintain that stance going into 2024. It's going to be a pretty explosive week for data, economic data straight off the bat. You've got 3 rate decisions, Bank of Japan. You've got the UK's Bank of England rate decision. Of course, you've got the Fed's rate decision, all expected to hold, which I think has a lot to do with the bond market and the pressures that's there. Remember, lots of big players calling for at least hedging their bond shorts. And why are they doing that? Well, it's likely because they know the pressure that bonds are putting on the markets and are potentially preempting the Fed to step in. and do what we've seen them already have a willingness to do, which is to essentially bail out people who end up in distress from that. And in the UK, we saw a similar thing, which actually was kind of the start of, if we go right back, the dollar coming down. And this is where all markets, bonds got bid, and the rest of the markets really followed and preempted that. So is there a similar thing potentially at hand? We'll see. We'll see how things transpire. But there is a lot of news coming out this week. And then, of course, we've got non-farm payroll. And with us looking at the dollar and saying the dollar needs to roll, this data could be the catalysts for it. You've also got a hell of a lot of earnings coming out. You've got the likes of McDonald's today. I think that came out quite well. And then you've got the likes of MicroStrategy, which is going to be interesting. Coinbase, which we really like on Thursday. Shopify, Roku, which I think we had actually as one of our initial sort of stage 1 breakouts or stage 3 breakouts. And then, of course, it's reverted since, but we'll see. Lots of stocks in a kind of what we would look at as a potential basing area. They look quite similar to a lot of these small altcoins, and maybe they've started what is a deeper upside market that's going to lead into a crash. So we've got a kind of macro, short-term, looking at the dollar and needing it to turn theory, but we are bulls, I would say, across the board. And we maintain that stance until there's reason not to, i.e. we get invalidated. And just quickly talking about the stock market, we still do, and if the stock market's going to bounce anywhere, it's going to be here, expect new highs for the S&P. One of the few people to say this. And if it's going to turn anywhere, it's going to turn here. If you look at the stock market across the board, you're at a kind of interesting place right now, I think is the best thing to call it. But the stock market, the future's certainly looking like it may want to positively open. The Russell, doesn't look great. We're seeing similar patterns across the board with stocks, just to sort of round that off. So we'll see. It's all really, for me, Bitcoin does seem to be following gold, to go straight back to what we started with, which is the Bitcoin chart. However, it's still got to perform. And it's largely going to depend on the dollar rolling over. You're going to get you're going to get quite a bit of pre-market angst, I think, with the US Open. And then you're going to have a kind of, I think, volatile week, given what the sort of economic planner looks like from a data point of view. So still watching the dollar, still very bullish. We think that alts are going to have their time to shine. What I want to move on to now is something that really came up a lot last week, and that was to do with Elizabeth Warren essentially accusing the crypto space of funding, being the tool to fund terrorism. And, Binance, of course, has been called into question once again. We have continued to reiterate, despite all the tweets, despite all the real negative press towards Binance, that actually we quite like CZ, and we think Binance has been rather honourable and honoured their customers. And we've said we really hope it succeeds, and we don't actually believe a lot of what's being sort of said out there in regards to Binance. We think it's a good exchange, and we think that they are really one of the better actors in the crypto space, and we wish them success in the world. But Binance has come under pressure along with Tether. And of course, what I want to do now is dive into a few clips of the hearing where Elizabeth Warren, of course, is going after crypto. She is zealous when it comes to the crypto space in regards to, wanting its demise. And then we'll look at, there was actually a bill, I think Lummis was behind it, who's very pro-crypto, that essentially is looking at, getting rid of the, finishing the investigation and consider criminal charges against Binance and Tether after reports they served as intermediaries for the likes of Hamas and illicit financial activities. So let's dive into the clip. Just to love and leave you on this, something interesting happening in the crypto space. I'd love to know your opinions in the comment section. And then we're going to wrap the video up.
Ways around those rules. One big one, crypto. Dr. Levitt, as a Treasury official, you saw firsthand how terrorists structure their transactions to evade detection. Do you think that government authorities know the full extent of all the crypto funds that Hamas and Islamic Jihad received over that time period?
By definition, they can't know all of the extent of it. But I do think that number is very likely exaggerated. But the experts who follow this closely think that number is inflated.
Now, obviously, the industry's claim is false, and that the amount of crypto flowing to terrorist groups has, quote, super increased since the attack began. And now it's time for Congress to act. Dr. Wagman, you were the Director General of the Israel Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Prohibition Authority. Do those wallets pose a particularly high risk of attracting terrorists and other very dangerous people?
Most of its budget and funds are still going through the traditional channels. And I want to put that clear because crypto is a problem, but this is not the major problem. And we have to look, on other traditional channels like banking and exchanges and money exchanges and cash and so forth. So let's not forget that. Crypto, it is a technology like any other technology that could be used for legitimate and illegitimate purposes. And even when we're getting to DeFi and all other technologies, there is a way, there is a technology that could also inspect that. And because of everything is transparent on the blockchain, we should focus our efforts. Therefore, I think that it is really important to make sure going forward that we're creating those environments that we could actually inspect and put forward the relevant technologies to ensure compliance.
Okay.
So we have it, guys. Crypto being called into question again in regards to its use for illicit activity or potentially, terrorist activity. I think that you can't deny the fact that in some way it could have been, but it's actually far more likely, just like with illicit activity, that the sort of traditional systems are being used and utilized in far more of a capacity. And what you heard there was that the numbers were largely exaggerated. And I find it very sad, actually, how politics works, because for Elizabeth Warren, this is just a political thing to further her overall agenda, and I think that that's unfair. There is a bit of pushback for this. You do have Senator Lummis posting this. When it comes to illicit finance, crypto is not the enemy, bad actors are. I sent a letter to the BOJ, to finish its investigation and consider criminal charges against Binance and Tether after reports they served as intermediaries for Hamas engaging in illicit activity. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. The US seems very hell-bent on going after Binance, and I think that's because it operates outside of its shores. But I want to know your opinions, thoughts, and comments on this in the comment section. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. So just to quickly recap, guys, it's all still about the dollar rolling over on the short term. We genuinely think that you're going to have a bull market. You could even see the 4-year cycle theory playing out. And it miraculously, just like it has, despite all the economic turmoil, once again moving forwards. And yeah, we remain long and strong. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next.